Welcome friends, and thank you once again for taking the time to watch chilled guitar reviews. This week I am bringing you a kind of follow-up to a video I made roughly 2 years ago when the channel was just getting started. In that video, I chronicled my efforts to purchase an E2 guitar, similar to this one. It was a Horizon 7-string model. I had imported it directly from a dealer in Japan, and those of you who have seen the video will know that when that guitar arrived, I was just bitterly disappointed. It had a whole host of just minor kind of manufacturing and build defects and a playability issue, lots of niggly things that basically meant that after spending like top dollar on a guitar, I was left with something that was far lesser than the sum of its parts, certainly lesser than what it should have been for the price points. I eventually sent that guitar back, and whilst I cannot really fault the service I received from the Japanese dealer, they even refunded me my customs fees, which they didn't need to do when I sent it back, I was left slightly disappointed. E2 is ESP's premium line of guitars. This is what used to be called ESP Standard. They are made in Japan to what they claim are only the finest specifications with only the finest components. And so naturally, when that guitar didn't live up to its expectations, I was disappointed and kind of surprised, given that all the feedback I had had from you guys in the comments was that E2 were some seriously nice instruments. This guitar has kindly been supplied for review by our friends at Live Louder, the most metal independent guitar shop in the UK. Live Louder specialise in stocking the most cutting-edge, heavy metal-focused instruments from manufacturers such as Legator, Ormsby, ESP, Ibanez, many more. If you like the look of this guitar, it's available direct right now from Live Louder. Just follow the link in the video description. And so I thought, you know what, some time has passed now. I think it's time I gave E2 another chance. So I got on to our good friends at Live Louder, who said we have just the best selection of E2s you can imagine, and they really do. So I went on their website and I chose a model completely at random, and I thought, right, let's give E2 one more go and let's see if I can see what all the fuss is about. So I now have here in my greasy mitts an E2 Horizon NTHS. This is a fixed bridge 6-string guitar in a sparkle finish. Now, most of the guitars out there in this sparkle finish are in a granite sparkle. However, Live Louder were lucky enough to have gotten hold of one of these, which is an Amethyst sparkle. Now, this is slightly different to most of the granite sparkles out there in that this is more of a blue, kind of purpley shade. As I understand it, this colour is actually a Japan-only colour, so it's really fortunate for me to be able to review something in this finish, in this country. Man, let's start with this paint. This is one of the best paint jobs I have ever seen on a guitar. I am not just talking about the colour of it, I am talking about just the sheer depth of the finish on this guitar. The ridiculously thick coat of paint, the ridiculously thick coat of lacquer, how flawlessly it's been applied to this guitar. There's not a single identifiable flaw I can find in the paint. When I pulled this guitar out of its lovely fur-lined hard shell case that you can see here, I was just struck by, like, this paint just felt just incredibly thick and high quality. So, out of interest, I got hold of a paint measurer, and what I actually found was the thickness of this paint is actually automotive grade. So the measurement you can see me taking here, I think is around about 3 mil, something like that. That's the standard that's applied to cars, and that is just outrageously high quality. So we're off to just a great start. This colour, obviously it has the sparkle in it, which is probably going to be an acquired taste. It can appear as many different colours, from sort of dark blues to bright purples, depending on the light you're looking at it at. It can also kind of take on like a slightly silvery colour as well. So straight away we're off to a much better start than we were with that other Horizon I bought 2 years ago, which had like paint chips up and down the neck and all sorts of stuff like that. Now, in terms of specs, like, this is what you would expect from a guitar costing just over £2,000 currently. So best of the best materials and construction methods. This is a neck through guitar with an older body, an ebony fretboard, stainless steel frets, Goto locking machine heads, black chrome Fishman Fluence pickups, which are the fancier version of the Fishmans, a proper hip shot bridge, lumen lace side dots, some really nice tortoise shell binding that goes all the way around the neck and around the headstock. This is as good as it gets. However, I understand, you're probably thinking, £2,000, I can get those specs on a guitar like a lot less money than that, and of course you are absolutely right. There are guitars out there £1,000 and under that will give you Fishman pickups, locking machine heads, a very, very similar type of spec. Now, what I can tell you, my experience has been with this guitar, is it kind of reminds me of the video I did about the Ibanez RGA 42 FM, which was a seriously cheap entry-level 350 quid guitar, right? Now, that might sound really, really weird, but just let me explain. In that video, I talked about how you should never judge something purely based on its specs. You should always get it in your hands and experience it for yourself. Now, in terms of build quality, yes, these specs are available on far cheaper instruments, but having held this thing in my hand, I've had it in the house for like a couple of weeks now, I've played it nearly every day. This guitar is absolutely greater than the sum of its parts. There is something intangible about this guitar that I can't really quantify for you in a video, but what I can tell you is the way this thing sustains, the way this thing resonates in the hand, it just feels incredible, and it is such a kind of addictive guitar to play. I have really struggled to put this thing down. I've got a feeling I'm really going to struggle to send this thing back to Live Louder as well. There is some intangible quality about this guitar that makes it one of the best guitars I have ever played. And as somebody who was bitterly disappointed by the last E2 they got their hands on, it is such a pleasant surprise. I imagine the reason that it just feels so fantastic to play is probably all of the little kind of extra manufacturing attention that's gone into this. So the ridiculously thick paint, the quality control, the incredibly softly rounded shoulders on the frets, the fretwork, it probably is kind of everything coming together. And whereas the last E2 I tried was definitely lesser than the sum of its parts, this thing is by far greater than the set of specs on its spec sheet. Just as a small specific note, one of my biggest issues with that E2 that I tried before was the pickup cavities. For some reason, the pickup cavities on that white E2 Horizon I had were just ultra shoddy. They were too big, in my opinion. The routing was like super uneven. The paint finish where the paint met the cavity was like completely on the piss. I have no idea what happened with that guitar. At one point, I even questioned if it was a genuine E2 and like a knockoff, and the Japanese dealer said, no, it is a genuine guitar. So specifically, when I look at the pickup cavities on this guitar, honestly, I still think they're probably bigger than they need to be. Where the pickup feet are, there's like this giant kind of half moon shape, and I would just like to see it much tighter in terms of the routing for the cavity. And every other guitar I own, the pickup cavities are just a perfect fit, more or less, for the pickup that's going in there. So clearly that's something E2 do as a whole across their range. What I can tell you is the actual quality of the routing, the evenness, where the paint meets, it's all good. I have no complaints really there. It's the quality it should be for the price, so again, that's a big relief. I know in the comments section of my videos, since I did that first E2 review, a lot of you have actually said they found the same thing with the pickup cavities on that E2 Horizon. They're like too big, they're a bit shoddy sometimes. I really have no clue what is going on with pickup cavities in E2s, because if they are being CNC machines, they should be very precise. If they're being hand routed, they should be really precise, because the Japanese are incredibly good at manufacturing things. So any idea what's going on, guys? Let me know in the comments. I mean, I don't really have a theory there. It's a really strange thing. Anyway, they're good to go on this guitar. So as I mentioned, this guitar is fitted with a very fancy black chrome set of Fishman Fluence modern pickups. And if you've tried these pickups, you know what to expect. Both pickups have two different voices. So I've tried to give you a kind of selection of like voice 1 and voice 2 on the neck and the bridge, but I'll bottom line this thing for you. Voice 1 on the bridge is a very exaggerated active sound. It's like an EMG 81 on steroids. Voice 2 on the bridge is my preferred voice. It's a nice open, almost passive sound, just very even, lots of headroom, a nice thick full sound. And in that similar vein, on the neck pickup, voice 1 is super bright, chimey, like a full-on high output humbucker sound. And voice 2 is a backed off, more airy, sort of like a Gibson humbucker type sound, I would say. Both of them sound beautiful really on the neck. I really enjoy playing cleans through this guitar. Just some points to make ergonomically. I feel like that's really where this guitar is knocking things out of the park, and one of the areas at least I can sort of quantify for you why this feels such a phenomenal thing to play. First of all, the body shape. This Horizon is an arch top, so the edges of the body are much, much thinner than the center of the body. So where the pickups and the bridge are mounted, it kind of slopes up like that, and where the edges of the body roll off, it kind of does this, so it's like sloping downwards. What that means is just access for your picking hand is so unobstructed. You know, you can do big, powerful strokes. You know, I like to beat the crap out of my guitars when I'm playing like heavy stuff. And it's such a kind of subtle thing that you don't really notice. It just allows a nice space for your elbow to kind of fall into, because that's that little kind of divot as it reaches the edge of the body. Equally, the neck, this is a really nice thin U-shaped neck. It's not too thick, it's not ridiculously thin either. I feel like they've struck a really nice balance with the neck profile on this. Also, there's a really underrated kind of secret little feature, which is that this is a gloss finished guitar. There's a ridiculously thick coating of lacquer on it, but on the back of the neck, this is a satin finished neck. So it feels lovely. It's clearly been sanded to oblivion. You can just run your hand over it with no effort whatsoever. I'm really glad that they've gone the extra mile by incorporating that, and I don't really know where the join is either. It's not a scarf type join where it stops being satin and starts being gloss on the body. It just kind of gently fades into the body, which is again just a lovely extra little bit of attention to detail. So overall, I mean, ergonomics, like this is just as good as it gets. Sounds wise, you know, I just feel like this is such a balanced guitar in terms of the way it sounds. You know, it's an older bodied guitar. I find older to be a fairly balanced wood. It's not ridiculously thick and muddy sounding like mahogany is, but it's not crazy bright like ash is, for example. This guitar is just a perfect kind of slap bang in the middle sounding thing tone wise. You know, it's not crazy bright and snappy, but it's also not really dark and muddy either. And hopefully you can hear that in the sound samples of me playing in this video. So I really have to say I didn't know what to expect. I had a terrible experience with E2 the last time I actually bought one with my own money. Maybe I've got lucky, I don't know. I chose this guitar at random, but I can only report to you what my experience has been with this thing. And like I said, this is one of the best guitars I have ever played. If you are lucky enough to own this guitar and buy this one, and I'll give you a quick shot of the serial number so you can keep an eye out for it, man, this thing is something special. It's something that is far beyond just what it appears to be on the spec sheet. And so if you are somebody kind of looking at spending $2,000, if I could tell you that you are definitely going to get something like this, I'd say it's worth every penny. If you're going to get something like what I had last time with that white E2 Horizon, unfortunately, no, it's not worth the money. So, you E2 owners out there, I have given E2 another chance, and I have just fallen head over heels in love with this guitar. I wish I could afford to not send it back to Live Louder, but things are not that way at the moment for me. What has your experience been with E2 and expensive guitars in general? Do let me know in the comments below. If you've got this far in the video, hopefully you enjoyed it, so please chuck me a like, chuck me a subscribe. It really helps support new content on the channel. Better yet, you can donate financially by buying me a coffee via the Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description below. Any type of financial support is massively appreciated, and it all goes straight back into the channel. Is there another brand that I have visited in the past that maybe I haven't given a favourable review to that you would like me to revisit? Schecter, cough, Schecter. Let me know in the comments below. Until the next chilled review, do take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.